as harmonics and overtones is that, you see, for harmonics, we count the first one. For harmonics, we count the first one, F1, fundamental frequency, okay, or the first harmonic. Then we count the second one, third one, fourth one, on and on and on. For overtones, we don't count the first frequency. So for overtones, we do not count the fundamental frequency. F1. So it's like for overtones, the fundamental frequency is not necessary. This is how we count for overtone. This is like 0. F1 is 0. But this is the first overtone. F2 becomes the first overtone. F3 becomes the second overtone. F4 becomes the third overtone. So we can term this as harmonics or overtones. But the difference is that for overtones, we do not regard the fundamental frequency. Please, are you okay? Hello, are you okay?
Yes, please.
So that is the difference. F1 becomes the first overtone, F2 becomes the second, F4 becomes the third, F5 becomes the fourth, and so on and so forth. So in questions, instead of harmonics, they will use overtones. When the talk is about overtones, you need to be able to associate the overtones to harmonic. Ekwe, are you there? Ekwe Adom, are you there? Inshira, can you hear us?
Yes.
Adwa?
Yes.
Gerard?
Yes, sir.
The feedback from you people isn't good. The reason for which I'm. So that's the difference between overtones and harmonics. The other thing you need to understand is that I forwarded a question, and I want to let me look for that question to address this particular area. In one of the questions I sent to you, those trial questions, give me a minute to locate the question and then let me forward the question so that you also open. Okay, so I've sent it to the group. So I should have identified this question before time. Okay. So question 3. Question 3 of the example, the examples of question I sent to you. A stretched string of 1 meter length and mass 5 times 10 to the power negative 4 kilogram is having tension of 20 Newton. If it is plugged at 25 centimeter from one end, then it will vibrate with frequency of, in those questions, I provided the answers. So a stretched string of 1 meter and mass 5 times 10 to the power negative 4 kilogram is having tension of 20 Newton. If it is plugged 25 centimeter from one end, then it will vibrate with frequency of, here the answer is 200 Hz. So let's look at this plugging distance thing and then the waves that will be generated. For the first note or the first stationary waveform, we saw that if you have a wave of length, a string of length L, the first note or stationary wave that will be formed, okay, would be the fundamental notes formed will be from here, from a node boundary to boundary. This is the stationary wave, or what we are calling as the node. Please, we can also call this as loop. But the question is that which part of the string do you have to plug or vibrate so that you can form this node or this loop? There is a relationship between where to plug, okay? When I talk about where to plug, I mean, assuming this is it. This is the whole length, okay? To get this shape of stationary wave or loop, there is a particular place I need to plug from this length I have in my hand so that we can form the fundamental notes or the first loop. Where exactly must we plug so that we form this? That is what I'm talking about. So the plugging distance, there's a formula connecting where to pull or vibrate, and then the number of waves, stationary wave that will be formed, and then the length of the string. And it is given by L over 2P. So the plugging distance is equal to L, where L is equal to length of the string. And then P, this P is the number of loop, or stationary waves. Or nodes. When the wave is like this, it means that only one loop is formed, or one complete stationary wave is formed. Okay. Now, so if we have this loop and the length of the string is this. Where do we need to plug in order to have a stationary wave, which is like this? This is equal to L over 2 times P represents the number of nodes or stationary wave. And so what we have here is 1. Therefore, this is equal to L half L. What it means is that if you have a node, L length of string, to form just one single stationary wave or one loop, you must pull or plug the middle half of the length of the string in order to form a loop which is equal to 1. Please, are you okay?
Yes, please.
Then if we have 2 loops for 2 nodes or stationary waves, if you have L length of string, 2 stationary waves will be so here we have the number of loops P is equal to 2. So if we have 2 nodes or stationary waves, which part of the string do we have to plug in order to have this number of loops or stationary waves? The plugging distance will be equal to L over 2 times, we have 2 loops, 2, meaning we must plug a quarter of the whole length. So if the length of the string is 1 meter or 100 centimeter, it means that to have this number of loops, you must plug a quarter of 100, which is 25 centimeter, and you have this number of loops or stationary waves being formed. Gerard, are you okay?
Yes, I'm okay.
Then let's look at the question I gave you. A stretched string of 1 meter length and mass, please write it. You solve it just now, so we move on. A stretched string, I just forwarded the question to the group, or you can locate it as the question 3. Okay. A stretched string of 1 meter length and mass 5 times 10 to the power negative 4 kilogram is having tension of 20 Newton. So the length is 1 meter. The mass per unit length the mass of the string is 5 times 10 to the power negative 4 kilogram. The tension in the string is 20 Newton. If it is plugged at 25 centimeter from one end, then it will vibrate with frequency of. So the frequency F is equal to 1 over 2L Fn is equal to N over 2L T over mu. Please, N represents the number of harmonics or the number of loops. Either in some books, in the foreign books, they will use P for N. P, and P represent the number of notes or harmonics or the loops, they will use P because, and they also use N for frequency. Okay. But we are often using Fn is equal to N over 2L root of T over mu, because this is because we represent frequency by the letter F. Okay. So use this to calculate for the frequency of the notes. Start with. I'm looking for one other question which applies this number of notes. I have one other similar question. The answer is actually in the question. It's 200 hertz, but try it and then let's see if you can have that. Are we done?
No, sir.
Did you get 200?
David, I said I'm not done.
Hurry up.
Yes, please.
All right. So here we are giving the plug-in distance. The plug-in distance we are told is 25 centimeters. So 25 centimeters is equal to L over 2P. Then we are also told that the length of the string is 1 meter. 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. So you use this to calculate for P. Okay, so P will be equal to 100 over 50, and that will be 2. So it means that if the length of the string is 1 meter and then you plug 25 centimeters, you form 2 loops. 2 complete stationary waves will be formed. So you have this. Okay, then meaning P or N is equal to 2. Therefore, the frequency will be equal to 2 over 2 times 100 or 1 meter. 1 meter. Then we are given the tension to be, what's the tension? 20. The tension is 20. And then the linear density is 0.0005. So we have F equal to, this will cancel out. Okay, you divide 20 by 0.005, take the square root, and it must be equal to 200 hertz. Adwa and Co, did you get that? Inshira? Adwa, Equia, Inshira and Co, did you get that?
Yes, please.
And I didn't get it.
What's the problem? What did you do? Gerard, what did you do?
Said a P. I got confused with it. That's why. I got confused.
We are fond of using Fn is equal to N over 2L times T over mu. N is the same as P. We use P for the number of notes. Okay. N as the number of notes. In foreign books, they use P. So it's P the same as N. Now, P relates to the length of the string by L over, I said, the plucking distance, where to vibrate, hold to vibrate. Plucking distance is equal to L over 2P. The question gave you the plucking distance to be 25. Then the length of the string is 100 centimeter, 1 meter. So find the value of P from the question, get P and substitute it here. All right, listen,
Okay, sir.
listen to this question too and then try your hands on it. A sonometer wire of length, a sonometer wire of length 0.50 meter. This is the spelling of sonometer. Sonometer is like it's similar to guitar and violin, but this is a wire on a box fixed at both ends. So a sonometer wire of length 0.50 meter and mass per unit length 1.0 times 10 to the power -3. 1.0 times 10 to the power -3 kilogram per meter. That's the linear density. It's stretched by a load of 4.0 kilograms. The wire is stretched by a load of 4.0 kilograms. If it is plugged at its midpoint, what will be A, the wavelength? If it is plugged at its midpoint, what will be A, the wavelength? B, the frequency of the notes emitted. B, the frequency of the notes emitted. Take G to be equal to 10 meter per second squared. So A, you have to look for the wavelength. B, the frequency of the notes emitted. Take G to be 10 meter per second squared. Start with. To get the notes, we plugged this at the midpoint. So what do you think will be the plugging distance? What will be the plugging distance? Yes.
0.25.
0.25, because the whole length is this. So 0.25 is equal to the length of the string is 0.5 over 2n. Therefore, 2n or n N will be equal to 0.50 over 2 times 0.25. And this is 1. So it means that when you plug the string at the midpoint, only one loop or stationary wave will be formed. Therefore, F1 will be equal to 1 over 2 times 0.5. We have the denominator, but the tension we don't know. And we know tension to be equal to the mass times acceleration due to gravity. The mass is 40 kilogram, which is the load, 40 kilogram. We're given J to be 10. So this is 400 Newton. So we have 400 divided by 0.001. So help me find F.
Sir,
Hello.
sir, please, but in the question, the mass was 4 kilograms.
Oh, 4.0 kilogram. Yes, I thought it's 40. Thank you. So this is 4 kilogram. Therefore, we will have 40 instead. So this will be 40. So what are you making for? Don't forget this product is just 1. 1 over 2 times this is 1. So F1 will be square root of 40 over 0.001. What's the answer?
200.
So I think Equia called it. In determining the wavelength, 2 possible ways to go. Velocity of transverse wave in a string is simply equal to this, T over mu. So if V is equal to F lambda.
Mr. Edia,
Hello.
please, how did you get the mu to be 0.01?
The,
No, please.
oh, the question gave it to us as 1.0 times 10 to the power -3. So I'm just expressing it in decimals.
Please, I've seen it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So one way of going about this is that V is equal to square root of T over mu. And we know V to be also F lambda. So in place of V, we are substituting this. Therefore, lambda will be equal to 1 over F times T on mu. So find wavelength for me. We have F. We have all this. Don't forget as for this one, we've calculated it. Root T on mu is equal to 40 over that. Okay. So what is lambda?
1 meter.
1. So lambda is equal to 1.0 meter. Because this is 200, this is 200. Another way of going about this is that, you see, we got n to be 1, meaning the note form is this. The note formed or the loop will be this. So the L length is equal to, from node to node, half lambda. The L length of the string is equal to half lambda. So if this is half lambda, then lambda is equal to 2 times L. L is 0.5. Therefore, the wavelength is 1.0 meter. That's another way of solving the question. Please, is that understood?
Okay, how do you get a half lambda?
Pardon?
Okay, how did you get a L to go to half lambda?
Hey, Yakuya, you are asking this question. We've gone through this basics. So from node to node, from node to node. Okay. What is the wavelength from node to node? It's from node to antinode is quarter lambda. So from node to node is quarter plus quarter. So half lambda. And we've gone past this. Okay.
Sir.
Yeah, Gerard.
Oh, sir, please. The wavelength, can't you just assume that the velocity of sound in air is 330 meters per second? So just divide by the frequency.
Listen to the question. A sonometer wire of length this and mass that is stretched by that. Okay. If it is plugged at the midpoint, what will be the wavelength? Then B, what will be the wavelength of the note? What will be the wavelength of the note? We are not talking about the wavelength of sound that is transmitted to you. It is the wavelength of the note that creates, okay? So it isn't the wavelength of a sound that is transmitted to somebody. Are you getting the difference?
Yes, sir.
So look at the context very well. Else you can make that assumption and it will be a bit dangerous. Please, is there any other question? Don't forget that I said this is about vibration in strings. Vibration in strings goes with, I told you that stationary waves are formed with a particular wavelength and frequency. So this seems to test the wavelength that forms a particular stationary wave. And we saw that this is the fundamental note or the first loop. So it is under that context. Are you okay? All right. So we've done vibration in strings. Let's look at in pipes. So this one is all about string instruments like the guitar, like the violin, like the harp, and name them. Now we are also going to look at stationary waves that is formed in tubes, pipe instruments, or wind instruments. Example, the trumpet, the trumpet, the flute. Name, give me other examples. Wind instruments.
So pipe organ.
Pipe organ, yes. So trumpets, the flute, pipe organ. More examples. Trombone, the trombone.
The recorder.
Eh?
The recorder.
Hey, I'm not saying.
So it's like a fuse, but it gives a different pitch, something like that.
Okay, then the harmonica. The harmonica. These are examples of wind instruments. They also operate on the principle of standing or stationary waves. Okay, so we are also going to look at the kind of stationary waves that are formed, and then the frequency, their frequencies, and their wavelength as well. What is it's here for resonance in pipes? For resonance in pipes or tubes. Okay, we term this as resonance. As we move on, I will explain the reason for terming this as resonance. We have the closed pipe, and the open pipe. Open pipe. Closed pipe. Let's begin with closed pipe. When we talk about closed pipe, we are talking about any pipe or tube. Hey, closed pipe and I said resonance in pipes or tubes. Okay. We are talking about any musical instrument that is played by using the mouth to close one end and having the other end open. So all musical instruments that is played by using the mouth to close one end and having the other end open falls under closed pipe. So an example, the trumpet. When you are playing the trumpet, you close one end with your mouth, the other end is open. So the trumpet, the trombone falls under closed pipe. Can you tell me of any other example? Then the pipe organ. The pipe organ also falls under this. Even the keyboard, okay, also falls under closed pipe. We have one end being open and the other end closed. Can you talk of any other example?
Stadium.
Yes.
Saxo.
The
Saxo.
saxophone. Yes. And then, oh, that's a saxophone. Yes, it also falls under closed pipe where the mouth is used to close one end and the other end is open. So here, trumpet, trombone. I said trombone. I'm not sure of the spelling, but then the saxophone. Pipe organ. These are closed pipe. Now, they also, you see, when you are playing this instrument, you blow air through one end. Now the air blown into it hits the wall of this cylinder and then reflects, creating that characteristic stationary wave. Don't forget, stationary waves are of this type: incident and then reflection. So when the air is blown into the cylinder, okay, what happens is that the air blown hits and then reflects, creating this, what characterizes stationary waves. Okay, that is why in most of these instruments, most of them are not just a straight barrel, but sometimes bent or contorted. So that the air blown into it would hit and then reflect, creating that interference, which is the main characteristics of stationary waves. So whoever plays it, that is the principle behind. Air is blown into it, it hits the boundary and then reflects to create the stationary waves. Now, in string instruments, when you plug the guitar, you get that continuous sound, that continuity. In the same way, when you blow air into the trumpet, the trombone, saxophone, whatever, you also hear continuous sound. Okay, meaning that the stationary waves formed are of different kinds. The reason for which the sound created or generated has that continuity. So different loops or stationary waves are formed to produce the sound which is picked up by listeners. So we are going to go through these possible stationary waves, notes or loops that is formed in closed pipe. Closed pipe. When we finish, we look at the open pipe. So a stationary wave is just two progressive waves that interfere. So an incident then reflects in that manner. So if we are forming stationary waves, we look at how this also looks like to draw. Now for closed instruments or pipes, whenever the notes, the stationary wave that is formed, because this one end is closed and then the other end is open, there is always a point where the air particles do not have that freedom to vibrate, which is node. So for closed pipe, there's always node formed at the closed end and then antinode at the open end. So let me give you some notes. For closed pipe, a node is formed at the closed end and an antinode formed at the open end. So when the node, if we have L length of a string or of of a tube. This is a tube. So if we have L length of the pipe, what will be the first possible stationary wave or note that will be formed here? The first possibility is that at the closed end, a node will be formed there. At the open end, an antinode. So under this, we are starting from a node and ending in an antinode. So if we look at this, this is a node, and then this is an antinode. So when it reflects, this is the first possible stationary wave or note that will be formed there. So the first possible note under this will be a node here and then an antinode over here. So that's the first fundamental note, the basic or fundamental notes for open for closed pipe or for a closed pipe. So this will be the first note. If this is the first note, stationary waves are formed with a particular wavelength and frequency. What will be the wavelength? What will be the frequency of this note? Okay. This is from node to antinode. So the length of the pipe or tube will be equal to what is the wavelength? What is the wavelength from node to antinode?
Sir, please, quarter lambda.
So this is quarter lambda. Okay. So let's determine the wavelength. Lambda therefore will be equal to 4 times L. 4L over 1. Over 1 for a reason. So this is the fundamental wavelength. This is also the fundamental wavelength. Lambda 1. What about that special frequency which will form this notes or stationary wave? Because frequency is equal to velocity of sound divided by wavelength, F1 would also be equal to V over 4L. And this is termed as the fundamental frequency or the first harmonic, just as we saw in the earlier fundamental frequency or the first harmonic or zero overtone. You know, in overtones, we don't count the first one. So we've determined that wavelength which forms this as well as the frequency. Okay. Let's look at the second possible note. The sound from this instrument has a continuity. So we are just going through the possible notes. The same length of tube. So the second note, the second nodes or stationary wave. Is that we have L length of the tube. How do we generate it? I said the stationary wave is a progressive wave. So once this is closed, we are always starting from a node. We are starting from a node and ending with an antinode. Okay, so this is the first one. The first one ended here. The second one will override the first one and end here. We are always ending in an antinode. So the reflection will look like this. So this will be the loop or the stationary wave that will be formed. So let's push this in L length of the pipe. So we have this. When you are drawing, add beauty to your drawing, aesthetics to your drawing. I said the stationary wave would, progressive wave will guide you. The second one would override the first one. We are always starting with a node because one end is closed. So node, first one, then we end with an antinode. So you can't come and end here. Okay. Then the reflection. All right. So if this is the second possible node or stationary wave, what will be the wavelength? If the length of the pipe is L, what will be the wavelength? Yes, Adwa, what will be the wavelength of this node? Adwa,
Yeah.
what will be the wavelength of this node?
Half lambda.
Adwa, open your eyes. Oh. Yes, free will. Immaculate. What is the wavelength? This is node, antinode, node, antinode. So use this trick to calculate it for me. Node, antinode, node, antinode, node, antinode. Node, antinode. Antinode, node. So node, antinode is the same, also the same as antinode, node. The node, antinode. So how many node antinodes do we have here? Adwa, how many node to antinodes do we have over here?
It's 2.
I said node antinode is the same as antinode to node. So how many node antinode or antinode to nodes do we have here?
3.
3. And what is the wavelength from a node to antinode? Adwa, what is the wavelength from a node to antinode or antinode to node?
Quarter lambda.
So we have 3 of quarter lambdas here. 3 times quarter lambda, because node to antinode or antinode to node is quarter lambda, and we have 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. So that's how you should count it. So it means that the wavelength is 3 quarter lambda. Immaculate and the rest of you, please, are you okay? Inshira, are you okay? Josephine, are you okay?
I'm okay.
Okay, so we have L equal to 3/4 lambda. So if this is it, then lambda will be equal to 4L on 3. And this is lambda 2. The wavelength of this node. That's the wavelength of this particular node. Okay. Don't forget, stationary waves are formed with a particular wavelength and frequency. So this is the wavelength which forms this particular stationary wave or node. What about the frequency? Because F is equal to V on lambda, F2 must be equal to V over lambda 2. So we have V over 4L times 3. So F2 is equal to 3V on 4L. Now, Adwa, what is V on 4L? Adwa, what is V on 4L? Adwa, are you there?
The stadium is a plum.
That is what?
The wavelength.
Hey, I don't get you. What is, from what we've been doing, or we are doing, what is V on 4L?
The fundamental.
Exactly. So that is F1. F1 is equal to V on 4L. Therefore, it means that F2, here F2 is equal to 3 times F1. 3 times F1. Let's do it for F3 and determine Fn. Please, at this point, if you have any question, ask before we continue. If you have any questions so far, ask before we continue. Silence means no question. Okay. So take note of the harmonics and then the wavelength. The basic wavelength we had, lambda 1 is equal to 4L on 1. Then F1 is also V on 4L. Then the second node, we had lambda 2 giving us 4L on 3. And F2 also giving us 3V on 4L, which is the same as 3 times F1. Let's do it for the third node and then make that generalization for n stationary waves. So how do we generate the third node? So I have L length of 5. So I said the stationary waves are basically progressive waves which goes in there to interfere or superimpose. So the first one, because this end is closed, we are always starting from a node. First one, second one, third one. The third one reflects, it will reflect to give us this. Okay, so over here, then the reflection. All right, it's more than. We have 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, meaning I exceeded it. So that is why when you draw this, it will always guide better. Okay, if it's not correct, you see it. So 1, 2, 3. Then the reflection will be, so there will be 2 complete. So 2 complete and then that. So if we have L length of tube, what is the wavelength? Akuya, what is the wavelength of this node? Akuya, are you there? Akuya,
Please, 5 on
hello.
please 5 on 4.
5 on 4. So node, antinode, node, antinode, node, and antinode. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 times quarter lambda. So we have 5 lambda on 4. 5 lambda on 4. Therefore, lambda is equal to 4L on 5. 4L on 5. So this is F3. F3 is this. Sorry, lambda 3. Therefore, F3 would also be V over lambda 3, which is V on 4L times 5, which is 5V over 4L. And this is also equal to 5 times F1. 5 times F1. So let's list F1, F1, F2, F3. Then look for F4, then make a generalization, Fn or Fp. Fn or P. F1 is just V, this maps to V on 4L. F2 maps to 3 times F1. Then F3 maps to 5 times F1. What do you think will be F4? Immaculate, what do you think will be F4? Immaculate. She's sleeping.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Josephine, what do you think will be F4?
Yes, I think F4 will be 7 F1.
7 F1. Then what will be Fn? Looking at the pattern. This is 1 F1. Looking at the pattern. What will be the nth frequency or harmonic? You are math students. So what do you mapping? What do you think will be the nth frequency? You are math, e-math, and core math students. Looking at the pattern, what do you think will be the nth frequency?
Sir.
Gerard, keep quiet.
Okay.
Adwa, Inshira, Equia, Josephine, Oye, and Immaculate. What will be the nth?
2n minus 1 F1.
Okay. So Adwa is saying that this will be 2n minus 1 F1. Let's see if it will fit. So if n is 1, we'll get F1. If n is 2, we'll have 3 times F1. If n is 3, we'll have 5 times F1. Thank you. So, you see, for this one, the harmonics are odd. So, the closed pipe has odd frequencies. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Meanwhile, for vibration in strength, they are mixed, both odd and even. But for vibration, resonance in pipes or vibration in pipes or tubes, it has the harmonics are odd. So what it means is that supposing the first fundamental frequency is 100, the next frequency you hear will be 300, followed by 500, 700, 900. Okay, that is it with the harmonics for closed pipes. Please, any question? Before we look at open pipes. All right. So this one has odd harmonics or overtones. So the first harmonic, the second harmonic, third harmonic, but this will be 0 harmonic. F2 is the first 0 overtone, 0 overtone. The second overtone is 3F1. This is, look at me. Look at what I'm saying. This is 0 overtone, first overtone. F2 is the first overtone. F3 is the second overtone. Third, on and on and on. Please, with overtones, we are always ignoring the fundamental note, the fundamental frequency. All right. Okay. Open pipes. Open pipes. What musical instruments falls under open pipe? We've made mention of closed pipe. Those ones that falls under closed pipe. But which examples of instrument falls under open pipe? Yes. Musical instruments which falls under open pipe. Those who I'm listening. Look at wind instruments and then tell me some of them. Open pipes or tubes. Yes, I'm listening. Which instruments, which examples will fall under open pipe? Adwa, can you share any with me? Josephine, are you there? Inshira, are you there?
Yes, please.
I'm asking you a question. Which musical instrument falls under open pipe?
Mr. Dia, flute.
Flute. Flute. So flute is one. Yes. More examples. Adwa, Josephine, Oye, you are here.
Sir, please, the trumpet or so on.
You were sleeping. The trumpet has been trumpeted. Immaculate, you were sleeping. The trumpet falls under closed pipe. Gerard. Open pipe instruments.
Sir, we can also talk about some of the pipe organs. Some.
Mention them. Which ones?
Sir, it's technical.
Right. Okay, you are also forgetting about the harmonica. The harmonica, aka mouth organ. And do you know the xylophone also falls under closed pipe?
Sir, with that one, where is the air from?
The what?
The air.
You mean the what?
It says xylophone forms under
Closed pipe.
open pipe. Yes, sir. But sir, where are the air from? Where is the air from?
Oh, it is. You see, the xylophone is just bamboo sticks that is placed on open tubes. So when you hit it, okay, when you hit the surface, it creates vibration in the air column within the pipe under it. Okay, so this one you don't need to blow air, but you hit the surface to disturb the air trapped within the tube. Are you okay?
Yes, sir.
So these are some instruments which falls under open pipe. So open pipe, we have both ends open. The flute is like that. Flute, this end is open. You use one end is closed with the mouth, but there are holes here. So at every time, we have two outlets for air. You may close this end with your mouth. Even this, part of it is closed, part of it is open. So at every time you have two ends, at least two ends open. Now, when the air is blown into it, as usual, it hits the cylinder, the air hits the cylinder and then reflects, creating that characteristic stationary wave or standing wave within it. Okay. Now, for open pipe, because both ends are open, you have, wherever it is open, there is antinode formed at open ends. When it is closed, we have node formed at the closed end. So this one, there will be antinode at both ends because both ends are open. So the first possible stationary wave, when we use progressive wave, all right. So this one is such that antinodes must be formed at both ends. So we'll start from this side will not come in. Antinode, a point of antinode. So the first possibility will be from antinode so if you have L length of the pipe, antinode will be formed here, an antinode will be formed here, and end with another antinode. Please, when you are designing it, let it look beautiful. So it will reflect. So this will be the basic notes or fundamental notes. Antinode, node, another antinode. L length will be equal to, what will be the wavelength? Immaculate, are you there? Immaculate, are you there? Wow, we hear no. Adwa, what will be the wavelength?
Stadia half lambda.
Is that come again?
To be half lambda.
So L will be equal to half lambda. Therefore, lambda 1 will be equal to 2L on 1. This is the fundamental wavelength. Then F1, fundamental frequency or notes, will be equal to V on lambda 1, which is V on 2L. This is the first harmonic. Or fundamental frequency. Okay. Your assignment is this. You generate F2. You are going to go through it. Generate lambda 2, F2, lambda 3, F3, and then determine for Fn, lambda n, and Fn. That's your assignment. You are going to draw the nodes, okay, to determine lambda 2 and F2, lambda 3 and F3. Then you are going to determine the end wavelength and then the end frequency. When you finish, give me how the harmonics go. Are they odd? Are they even? Just as I've done for all others. Vibration and strings and then includes pipe. Please, is that okay? Hello, is that clear?
Yes, sir.
please.
So derive it for F2, lambda 2, F2, lambda 3. I will also love to see the how you draw the notes. The notes as well. The notes. So generate the notes, second possible stationary wave or loop. The third, and when you finish, derive the end wavelength and then the end frequency. That's your assignment. If you have any question, ask. If you don't have any question, then we'll end here. Is there any question? From Adua Oye to all of you. Okay. So if there is no question, then good night to all of you. Right?
Right, sir.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.